Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? I'm John J. II, and this is the Gin College Podcast. I'm here with my host, as always, Cody Almasi. Cody, how we doing today, man?
Doing great, man. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Happy holidays. Be safe. Black Friday shopping. Just doing great, man. It's my culmination of all my favorite things in family, football, and food. So hope everybody's enjoying their weekend.
The 3 Fs. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, so hope everyone's being safe out there. Hope everyone had a very happy and safe Thanksgiving Eve. You guys went out for the biggest bar night of the year. I actually did. I took part in that. So I actually I felt a little bit under the weather in the early stages of Thanksgiving yesterday, but I got over it quickly. So shouts out to that. But yeah, I had a great time, and I hope everyone had a good time too. So make sure to share your Thanksgivings with us. If you guys had a good time or any memorable things, let us know so we can talk about it and showcase you guys here on the show today. But we got a great show for you guys in store. We got a lot of big games, a lot of big rivalry games. This is rivalry week here in the college football landscape. So a lot of exciting games. And we have our showcase game, which actually has to speak for why I'm wearing what I'm wearing right now, is the Wolverines paraphernalia, which you only see once probably a year. You know, you're not going to see it too many more times than this. So it's one of those things that it's a battle between the borders. And this is a rivalry that's been around for a long time. Ohio State, Michigan State. We'll talk about it here very soon. But let's do a live college football look. Let's talk about the games that are happening right now. I'm going to pull up the scoreboard here on my screen so we can just kind of look at it. But what games have you been focusing on that happened today? Because there's actually a lot of games going on today, Friday, the 26th of November. Has there been any games you've been looking at closely, Cody?
I tuned into San Diego State, Boise State earlier. The Aztecs came back and beat the Broncos. That was a nice one to tune into. Right now, we have Cincinnati, East Carolina. They're both wrapping up. Colorado, Utah, and Cincinnati both taking care of business as the score winds down. Both actually have the same score. Utah and Cincinnati are leading their opponents 28-13. So taking care of business. Utah is going to be watching to see what happens with Oregon State tomorrow. And then earlier this afternoon, big Big Ten matchup for the West. Iowa beats Nebraska, and now they need Wisconsin to lose. But the Badgers have won 7 straight coming into their matchup against Minnesota tomorrow night, and it's going to be a battle. We'll see what happens. But it's pretty big, and it has implications of who the winner of the game is going to play in the Big Ten title.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be a big game too, going down the stretch into the final games and final series of the Big Ten conference play. And that's going to really depend on who's the GOAT in the Big Ten conference. With the 2-division system, you really have the opportunity, especially teams in the West that many of them don't really compare. There's a couple in there that do compare to a lot of teams in the East, but the East, I think I would say is definitely, and this is kind of an undisputed thing, is more weighted as far as success, record, ranking, everything. It's more stacked on the East side compared to the West. So that's just a blatant fact. That just has to do with geography.
Yeah.
But a lot of big games happening. Arkansas, Missouri just wrapped up. Arkansas with a victory, 34-17 over Mizzou. So that's a good way to
Arkansas
kind of
should
start
get
their weekend.
themselves a decent bowl game with that win.
Oh,
Finishing
yeah.
8-4, definitely above expectations. It would have been huge if they could have upset Bama last week, but won't talk about what could have been. Another rivalry game tonight. You got North Carolina and NC State kicking off right now. So in a couple of minutes at 7 p.m. So tune in for that. NC State's looked good, but the Tar Heels have played spoiler and can put up some points. So that'll be a good Friday night treat for you guys.
Yeah, definitely some good opportunities for the bettors as well. North Carolina coming in +5, NC State -5. So there's some opportunities here. This might even be a game where you can have some live betting opportunities. So if we check back in on this towards the latter half of the show, we'll give you guys some of our insights as far as betting goes. But we got a lot bigger things at play. A game that actually already took place last night, the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss beats Mississippi State 31-21. So Cody, what did you have to say about that game? What did we see in that game? It was really not much of a game until late. It didn't really get interesting until late. So Ole Miss still got them and bested them by 10. But what did you see in that game that you were impressed with?
Just more of the same with Matt Corral leading that offense, looking good. I think that the Ole Miss fan base is enjoying their time with Lane Kiffin, as it's now speculated that Miami has heavy interest in that play caller. So I'd like to see him stay with Ole Miss, but I can see the appeal in going to a Florida school, Miami. I think that's his alma mater. So enjoy Lane Kiffin while he's there. We all know he likes to move.
Yeah, he likes to be on the move. He likes to constantly keep his options open. So if you can find him a spot and give him a landing zone, chances are, depending on the offer, we've seen a lot of 10-year big-time max contracts go out to coaches that, you've seen the James Franklin, the Mel Tucker contracts get released just in the Big Ten. You haven't really seen it as much in the SEC, but, it's bound to happen going into the latter half of the season. Conference plays wrapping up here, so there's still time for these contracts.
In the second tier of the SEC are all in wait to get better jobs, like the coach of Kentucky after the year he's had. People like that, Lane Kiffin as well, and people just waiting to move, I think, to maybe Florida or from go to Kentucky to Florida, or just job openings like that, just small upgrades where they can get them.
Yeah, definitely. You even see coaches like Jerry Kill, coached at Minnesota, just got a job at New Mexico State. He's an interim coach at TCU right now. So you're always looking for, if you're a coach that's in any arena, you look at, even the coach that replaced Jerry Kill, PJ Fleck. He looked for a better job. He was at Western. He was copywriting phrases. He was doing everything he had to do. He seemed like a staple at that school, but if he got a better offer, he got the better offer at Minnesota in a Big Ten school. He took that offer. He has to do what's best for himself, even similar to Mel Tucker leaving Colorado. And you can look at, circumstance after circumstance where this is happening. So it's, you really can't blame the coach, and a good way to lock them in is to offer them a large contract. Say, here, we're going to throw you a bone. Stay with us. Make this your school. Make this your tenure where you're going to look back and this is going to be your legacy school.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that have to be considered, but you got to think about the coach and think about their opportunities and that they got to do the best thing for themselves, even if it means leaving a school that some people might have thought that they were a staple at. So you got to consider that. Good deal. Let's get into the main event right now because we want to allocate a good amount of time to this topic, and you guys can all see it coming. The writing is on the wall, and we've been talking about it for a while now. We had a little hint towards it on Monday's show, and we're going to retouch on it today more than we did before. We're going to get heavy into it. And just a quick question before we get into it. Cody, I want to ask you this. A lot of people have said this. This is not an uncommon phrase, but is the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, the Battle of the Borders, is this the greatest rivalry in all of sports?
Definitely, I think in long term, like overall sense of the word, definitely one of the greatest rivalries. I mean, it hasn't been competitive in at least 10 years, and look how much hype is around the game. That you see Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, all these old names and legacies being shown on your screen in the commercials, and there's a lot of history that goes into it. And for the series record to be so close when Ohio State's been so dominant as of late, I think that speaks to how much passion that these two fan bases have and how much hate they have for one another. I mean, you a Sparty fan are wearing your Michigan stuff, so that says something.
Well, that says something definitely of the rivalry and what I know of it from what I've grown up. I've grown up around Michigan fans my entire life. And what I've grown up with more than even being a partial Michigan fan when it comes to the game is the brutal hatred towards Ohio State. That's something that is born and bred within every Michigan State fan, or at least the true Michigan State fans. It should be born and bred into you once you become a college football fan in general, whether it's, whatever fan. I don't care if you're an Alabama fan, Crimson Tide, or LSU. Everyone should have a reason to hate Ohio State. A little bit more if you're a Michigan State fan. But the hatred for Ohio State is through the roof, especially from me. And I've always really had a deep hatred for them. Even when I go on road trips and I got to drive through the state of Ohio, it's technically called the armpit of America, and I didn't make that up. So there's a reason it's called that. It's a tough drive when you're even driving through the state of Ohio. And I even heard people from Ohio call it that. So, it's not an uncommon, mindset to have towards Ohio State or, the state of Ohio. And yes, they are great. They are a good team. They have a lot of talent, which makes them even easier to hate, in my opinion. You want to see them fail, similar to Alabama, where, maybe the same kind of hatred's not there from, as it is for Ohio State from Michigan or Michigan State fans. But the fact that they're so good year after year makes them very easy to hate. So I think that has something to do with the rivalry. Obviously, the rivalry's been around for a long time. Both of these teams are two of the most winningest teams in the college football world, by far. So, yes, people are going to argue Michigan's been around, longer than a lot of college football teams have been around. Their program goes back way into the 1800s. So, there's going to be issues there with statistics and things like that. But I believe this is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. And
if Michigan can break that seal and get a win, that would be huge for this rivalry going forward. And it'd be right back on like it never left. If we can shock the world and get a win tomorrow in Ann Arbor, it'll do a lot for the rivalry.
Let's just take a look at what's at stake for tomorrow. So, yes, the rivalry's there. It's huge. It's arguably the greatest rivalry in all of sports. We get that. We know that. Let's talk about the actual, things that are on paper that can be looked at and that can be, analyzed. This is a fight for the Big Ten East. This is between these two teams coming at each other late in the season. We'd love to see that. They always seem to find each other, somewhat late in the season like this. So it's a fight for the Big Ten East. Whoever's going to face, whatever team winds up making it in the Big Ten West, you're going to face them for the conference championship. And not only that, but it's a fight for the college football playoff, the top four. Number 5, Michigan, is coming at Ohio State, number 2 in the nation in the college football playoff rankings. If Michigan wins, they'll easily knock them out of that top 4 spot. They'll probably drop down to 8 or 9, but they're basically out of the run since they don't have that many games left in conference play. And Ohio State hasn't won in conference play yet, or hasn't lost, rather. But if they do lose, that loss carries a lot of weight. Like I said on the Monday show, these games, every single game, whether you win or lose, Obviously, when you lose, it's going to have more of an effect on your ranking than if you win, just because there's different teams winning and losing all the time. There's a lot of teams shifting within the college football playoff rankings, but these
This is
games carry a lot of
essentially
weight.
a playoff game in every sense of the word. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the loser gets a consolation. I mean, the Rose Bowl is what the loser will probably get, so it's a pretty decent consolation prize. But if you win, you're going to the Big Ten championship. You're going to a college football semi game, so you're playing more football. You have the chance to play more football, play late into December and even January. So that's what's on the line, and I hope that the Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, this is the team that can do it. You know, it likens the 2016 game. The JT was short, huge, controversial game. That was in Columbus, I believe, and that was a dogfight. And I think that was one of the last. I mean, 2017, 2018, we had no business hanging around, and we did for some reason. But the last two performances between these teams, Michigan's gotten beat so badly and embarrassingly. So I think that has a little to do with the apprehension to take the Michigan Wolverines here. I was surprised that it's only a 7-point line. You know, I thought it would be a little bit higher than that. The Wolverines are 7-point underdogs. So, hey, I can work with that.
Yeah, I mean, it dropped from 8 to 7. That was the odds earlier in the week. That was what it was on the Monday show. 8 points. So Michigan +8, Ohio State -8. It is now 7. So, I mean, that's a big time point differential. That's between a touchdown win or a touchdown loss from, you know, a winning the bet or losing the bet based on a push. So, I mean, that 1 point is actually much more substantial than it might appear to be on paper. It's a very substantial point spread change. So let's get into the pen and paper of it. Let's talk about the over-under. Obviously, the bookies are expecting a lot of points to be scored here. And, you know, let's just look back a little bit. Let's look back and you can say, yes, this is the Michigan team that we expect to win against Ohio State if any team in the last 5-6 years had the opportunity to. And there's been a couple of games where it's came down to referees and calls and things like that. And Harbaugh's been up in arms. And in close games, especially rivalry games, you don't want to have to put up and bring the referees into the conversation as having an effect on the outcome of the game. You don't ever want that. You want it to be completely based on merit and how these teams played and performed on the field. You don't want to have it come down to calls. So, I mean, I guess let me ask you this. What's it going to take for Michigan and the Michigan Wolverines to go out and win this game? What is Cade McNamara going to have to do to win this game and really persevere and penetrate the Ohio State defense? What's it going to take?
Yeah, I mean, he needs to play a clean game. Can't really afford any turnovers. Wilton Spate just sticks in my head. He had about 3 turnovers in the 2016 game when we lost so close. But that's hearsay. You know, we need to keep Cade protected, and we need to get after CJ Stroud. It's really the line play on both sides of the ball for both teams is going to be huge. Which offensive line can keep their quarterback more protected? Both defenses get after it. The Buckeyes have 8 players with at least a sack and have 37. I think that's the best in college football. The Michigan Wolverines, they have 28 sacks, but it's more of a 2-person show there as David Ajabo and Aiden Hutchinson account for 20 with 10 each. They're both 2 away from tying David Bowen's 96 record. So there's a lot to play. There's a lot of motivation, and I think this player-led team can, but we can't let what happened to Michigan State happen to us. If we get down 28 in the first quarter, it's a wrap. You know, Ohio State's put up 115 points in the last 2 games, so we can't beat them in a shootout. That's for a fact. They have wide receivers, insert wide receiver's name, who can drop 150 on your head. We don't have anybody like that. We have an electric backfield with Hassan Haskins. Blake Corum is coming back from injury. That's going to be huge. And then running back Donovan Edwards, he hasn't had much run all season, but he's a running back, and he had 10 catches for 170 yards against Maryland. I know Maryland's not Ohio State, but that he might be able to be some sort of X factor that Ohio State doesn't have much film on. So you're going to need to go deep into the bag of tricks to come away with a win, no matter what team you are.
Yeah, you're going to definitely be looking for Ojabo and Hutchinson to get around the edge and secure that edge to get to CJ Stroud and limit him as far as what he's able to do, both through the passing game and being evasive in the run game too. Because we all know this guy can run, the true freshman. He's gonna be a big affecting player. Yeah. He's gonna have a huge effect on this offense.
Needs to get the ball out of his hands, tip a pass, get it up in the air, get get a surprise turnover. Those are the kind of things that Michigan needs to do. But they need more than just one, because Ohio State can overcome one or two mistakes like that and be all right. They need to put together a string of defensive plays that affects the outcome of the game.
Yeah, you also look at that statistic of sacks. OSU at 37 sacks against U of M's 28 sacks. Really not too big of a difference. That's a great amount of sacks for either defense.
Yeah.
Looking across the board in the college football landscape, but it's going to really come down to how good is the offensive line from each of these offenses, because to limit those sacks, you got to have a good offensive line. You got to have a good tackles to steal the edge, maybe even tight ends that might have to come in there and throw some blocks on some D ends. So it's going to come down to the offensive line to securing the security of the quarterback, making sure they're safe in the pocket. And if any of those things get blown up, that's really a play that's has a huge possibility of getting blown up entirely. So that's something you got to look for too. People have said, and there's
take
rumors.
script out of Nebraska's playbook. Games, go back down and watch films of the game where CJ Stroud got pressured, where he struggled, and where he and the running back game, stopping the running backs, whoever it is, they have a plethora of running backs who can just do damage. But if you stop it and make him throw the ball 50, 60 times a game with no help from his running backs, that's when mistakes start to pile up for CJ Stroud. When they're not many,
Definitely.
but as you were saying.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that's a good point, but there's people saying there's rumors going around. Is Jim Harbaugh fighting for his job in this game, or do you think he's safe no matter what?
There's a lot of Michigan fans who are going to want his head if he loses this game, especially if it's a blowout. But I just don't think that's how the Michigan administration is going to handle things. I mean, expectations coming into the season, we were talking about Harbaugh already being on the hot seat, losing to Washington possibly in week 2. And to have 10 wins with one more game to play and to be playing for college football playoff spot against what, in my opinion, is the best, most lethal team right now in college football. What more can you ask for? Who are you going to bring in that can just automatically beat Ohio State,
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle for Jim Harbaugh over the last 5-6 years to even come close to beating Ohio State. They've came close a couple times, but far and beyond. Ohio State just bested them just a little bit to get the edge to win that game, whatever game it was in whatever year. And I think that's a black mark on Jim Harbaugh's legacy. If he does end his tenure at Michigan without beating Ohio State, that's going to be something that's going to keep him up at night. That's going to affect his legacy for a long time. So I think it's in his best interest to work his hardest to beat this Ohio State team this year, because it's going to carry a lot more weight, and it's going to really make up for a lot of those losses against Ohio State in previous years because of how good this Ohio State team is this year. They've been good for a lot of years. Don't get me wrong. Year after year, they always have a solid team, but this team is different. And just as this Michigan team is different than in years past. So you got to focus on the pros and cons of both of it. And I think you give Harbaugh the benefit of the doubt. He's really came in and did what he had to do. He's the brightest shining star as far as a head coach at Michigan that they've seen in a long time, since Lloyd Carr probably. And you can't really, you look at Rich Rod, you look at, Brady Hoke, those guys, I don't know. I don't think they really took the job seriously. They didn't take it to heart like Jim Harbaugh is. So you got to give him a lot of credit. He's obviously made it through a lot of tough losses, and he's been through hell and back with this Michigan team through different administrations of the Michigan team with different personnel and different players.
I don't think he's going to go willingly, because he doesn't want to have 2 head coaches straight at Ohio State absolutely own him. So like Urban Meyer never lost to Jim Harbaugh, and Ryan Day doesn't have any plans of losing to him. So I don't think Jim Harbaugh will be able to sleep at night if he can't find a way to get one of these wins.
So here's an interesting scenario. So say either team wins this game and they make it to the Big Ten East. Obviously, at the top of the list, they make it to the Big Ten Conference Championship, and they lose. Whichever team it is, Ohio State,
Red hot
Michigan.
Wisconsin. We'll just say it's Wisconsin, because they've won 7 straight, I think, since losing to my Wolverines. So a red hot Wisconsin team comes in and knocks one of us off. That would, I think, eliminate the Big Ten from college football playoffs, and that would be unfortunate.
That would be very unfortunate and very unforeseen for a lot of reasons. So obviously I got to play devil's advocate and give Cody the unthinkable as far as possibilities that could happen. But it's definitely a possibility that has to be considered because you never know. Crazier things have happened in the college football world, and we got to be ready for all of it. So that's going to be a job for Gary Barta and the College Football Playoff Committee to decide once that comes to fruition, which I highly, highly anticipate it not happening. But, just got to put it out there as a possibility that has to be analyzed and looked at. So, I mean, is there anything else you want to say about this game, or what are you looking for in this game? I guess, what are your expectations if Michigan's going to be successful, that is?
Yeah, like I said, just really need a big game from both Ojabo and Hutchinson. Tip a ball, force a fumble. They both Ojabo has, I think, 3 or 4 forced fumbles and a couple recoveries, so they have the ability to do that. Cade McNamara can't hit any lineman in the back of the head with a fucking pass. That's what he can't do. He does that too often. And if that ball goes in the air off someone's head, an Ohio State personnel is coming down with it. So those are the kind of things that can't happen. Objectively, I think it's going to be tough to escape with the win. Subjectively, I'm all in. My Wolverines by 100. My shirt wearing Fred Flintstone here because that's about the last time we beat Ohio State regularly was when the Stone Age was around. So
when was the last time they beat Ohio State? Do you remember the year?
It was Shoelaces, Denard Robinson, 10 years ago. It's been over 10 years because I think it was a little earlier in November, but Denard Robinson willed his way to a Wolverine win. He ran all over. I was watching film, man. It was crazy how he wasn't even a quarterback. The dude was just a running back who fucking would take off with the ball.
Yeah.
Watching film on him is pretty fun. But my Twitter heavy is still Denard because the last man to beat the Buckeyes. I'm trying to channel that energy. I hope all the Buckeyes wake up with COVID tomorrow. Just kidding. Not gonna wish any health issues on anybody, but we're gonna need some help from the man upstairs to pull off the unthinkable tomorrow.
Definitely. I think it's definitely more possible than a lot of people will think, even thinking about this game objectively. They're going to have to be sound on offense. I'm saying 0 picks from Cade McNamara. Really sound passing. Got to go for the deep ball when it's there, and penetrate those DBs, the secondary from Ohio State and their defense. And you got to be sound on defense. I think you got to play almost a cover 3 over top where you're limiting the deep pass because they're going to utilize that deep pass. They like the short pass too, where they can kind of, draw the linemen in the first level, second level, and even linebackers, draw them behind the line of scrimmage, throw that short pass. They're going to utilize the screen quite a bit and the flats pass. So look for those short passes, but they're definitely going to look for that long ball. And I think the game will be won or lost in the pass game in this one. Obviously there's going to be your run plays and things like that, but you got to be able to defend the pass and excel on the offensive side of the ball and being successful in the pass game. And it's going to come down to passing. I'm just going to say that right now. I'll make an early prediction, whatever you want to call it, and we'll see what happens come tomorrow. So really excited about it.
Yeah, if Cade McNamara has himself a game, it will definitely continue to fuel the already quarterback controversy for next season between JJ McCarthy and Cade McNamara. It's already started. That was a hot topic at some of the Thanksgiving tables for my family over this weekend. They're like, they have to play JJ or he's transferring. So we'll see what happens next year.
I think JJ knows that his time will come at the starting position. He will be the guy at Michigan if he stays.
He definitely has the right head on his shoulders to be the man in weight. Yep.
He'll get paid dividends if he just puts in the push-ups, puts in the time right now, and trust the process. He'll be fine. He'll be the starting guy once Cade goes on to bigger and better things. So we just got to trust that. And I think they'll really put Michigan in a tough position if JJ does leave, because then they're really going to be scrambling for a QB. So we'll see what happens there. But big thoughts about this game tomorrow. We'll be live tweeting it and be posting about it before the noon game tomorrow, the showcase game on Fox. And we'll be touching on it a lot between now and then. But let's get on to the final games that we have going on. Got a couple more. We got Bedlam. We got OU against Oklahoma State. This is the Bedlam game. Just another piece of the puzzle when it comes to rivalry week. What are we seeing in this game, Cody, that really stands out to us? Obviously, an Oklahoma team that kind of crumbled somewhat late in the season. Still 10-1, but I think it's on the worst side of 10-1 teams as far as, sentiment goes for the team and emotion-wise. just because they've been through a lot this year, even with one loss. And I think they're ready for the season to end, but they want to end it on a good note so they can go into the offseason being confident and being, hopeful of their program. What do you see in this game, and how can you explain the spread, which I'll put on the screen right now?
Yeah, Oklahoma, the Sooners have been the subject of conversation almost every week from week one. Spencer Rattler, highly touted guy coming in, lots of expectations, eventually having to turn it over to Caleb Williams. Everybody kind of just waiting for them to lose until it finally did happen in Waco against Baylor 2 weeks ago. And then they had to hang on, had to give Iowa State a tough time last week to hold on to the 28-21 victory. And they haven't even wrapped up the championship game yet. They have to win this game, and they need to hope that Baylor loses as well to make sure that they get in. Oklahoma State, they've already wrapped it up. They're going to play in the Big 12 championship no matter what. And they only have one loss to Iowa State. We covered that game. I think we did a preview and a recap. It was a great game. And the Cyclones just bested them by a field goal late. Breece Hall had the go-ahead touchdown. And so without that, though, they'd be undefeated. And they both actually, if chaos ensued, kind of if Ohio State or Michigan goes to the Big Ten championship and loses, things like that start to happen, one of these two teams could find themselves sliding in the proverbial back door of the college football playoffs.
Yeah, very well said. I think that's definitely a possibility. Not as much of a possibility realistically when you're talking about the Big Ten East and whoever comes out of the East victoriously, losing to whoever's victorious in winning the West once the conference title comes into play. But you got to be focused on that. You got to be talking about these kinds of things because these teams that are in the back door that have a key to the back door. They might use it, they might not, depending on if certain things happen. And there's a lot of puzzle pieces, a lot of cards that have to fall to make certain things happen. It's a sequence of events that have to take place. And basically the stars have to align perfectly for a team like Oklahoma to even make it,
especially
with
for Oklahoma. Oklahoma State's and right there behind Notre Dame. The committee gave the Fighting Irish the nod over the Cowboys, I think a little bit because in theory, they play this game against an oppressive Oklahoma team. And either if they win or lose, they could theoretically have to play Oklahoma again, especially if they lose and Oklahoma wins, Baylor loses, then they're going to turn around and have to play each other again next week. So things could change very drastically, very quickly for either one of these two teams. So I think the committee left them on the outside because it will all get settled out. Analytically, Oklahoma's running back just needs 28 yards, and he has 1,000 rushing yards on the year, 4 years for him there. It is 4 years. He joins Adrian Peterson and a couple other names as running backs with 4,000-yard seasons at the University of Oklahoma. And I think that was the main analytic thing I wanted to say there. Malcolm Rodriguez, linebacker for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, the Dick Butkus Award. Everybody says he's a snub. He's leading the stingy Oklahoma State Cowboys defense. They're second to Georgia in points allowed, and then third behind Georgia and Wisconsin in yards allowed. So their defense is going to look to flex that muscle here against the Sooners.
Yeah, they've already got the job done quite a bit this year, beating some key teams in key situations. Even took Oklahoma State and quite a few bets, actually. They were projected to cover quite a few games, and the bookies weren't really favoring them as much as they are now because they know what they're about. They know how good they are, and that's why I think Oklahoma State is favored here by 4.5 points. More than a field goal. Obviously, the differential that comes up in most college football games is 3 points, a field goal differential. So having that 4.5 point spread definitely favors Oklahoma if they come out and perform and Caleb Williams gets the job done offensively and perseveres through that tentative and very threatening Oklahoma State Cowboys defense. So that's going to be the key to Oklahoma winning that game is penetrating that defense, getting the job done through the air. And making it happen offensively, getting the ball in the end zone. So it's going to come down to a lot. It's going to be a dogfight, another one that's going to be a hugely talked about competitive rivalry game. And there's a lot at stake with this game as well. Maybe not as much as, what would be at stake in the Big Ten, which is at stake in the Big Ten with Ohio State and Michigan, but it's up there. It's up there, especially within rivalry week and having a lot of cards that need to fall with, obviously Oklahoma State with the berth, but Oklahoma needs certain things to happen, even more than a win. Or wait, can they win the game and still get the berth? They have to win,
I
right?
think that they have to win and Baylor has to lose.
Okay, yeah, because Baylor beat them already.
Beat the head-to-head, and there's no divisions in the Big 12. It's just
That's
12
right.
teams, which we like that over here at the GSN.
So exactly. So the top two play.
So it's either basically going to be Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma again, or Oklahoma State versus Baylor. Oh, Big Ron, my dad, taking OU in the points.
Oh, wow.
Thanks for watching, Dad. Appreciate it.
Hey,
he's a big
Mr.
fan
Massey,
of the GCP.
Thank you. Oh, is he? That's great.
Oh, yeah.
I love to hear from different fans that come out, especially ones that come out and comment on the show when we're live. And it's really cool to see them take part in what we got going on here. So thank you, sir, Mr. Almasi, for tuning in.
He'll be yelling at his TV tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. He'll be screaming. His
the
TV will be taking some hits. So, I mean, I'll be screaming at the TV too, especially if Michigan plays good against Ohio State. I just want to see the tears in the Ohio State fans' eyes because it's going to bring a lot of good feelings to my heart and a lot of hearts, I think. Even the true Michigan State fans, this is something that's kind of been a controversial thing, and we talked about it during the Michigan State-Ohio State game, and I'm not going to get too much into it right now, but the Michigan State fans that don't have the true hatred for Ohio State, you want to see Michigan be successful because that team beat you. We beat Michigan. There's no reason to not want Michigan to beat Ohio State. There's no reason.
Right. You guys
especially with all that's at stake. So
you guys beat one of the best teams. We're the only team to beat one of the best teams if we continue to win, so why wouldn't you want that just besides your hatred for Ohio State? And I understand you see, like I see Michigan State, is upset them because you guys usually play them pretty well. And I'm a little sour that it wasn't us who beat you guys, but I'm just happy to see Ohio State lost, like you said.
Right, exactly. You just got to see the prophecy and see everything happen and take everything with a grain of salt, even if it's not your team that's victorious at the end of the day. So let's move on. Let's talk about the final game. That's a showcase game for the Gin College podcast on this beautiful Friday. Penn State versus Michigan State. Penn State -2 at Spartan Stadium, over under 52. What are we seeing in this game? This is kind of the last chance for Michigan State to prove their legacy and really put a staple and a stamp on their positive outlook of a season. And in light of Mel Tucker and James Franklin's 10-year big contracts. I mean, this is basically a battle of the contracts.
Yeah, these two dudes are going to be playing each other for the next 10 years at least. So you better get used to it.
Yeah, they better be good buddies.
The Land Grant Trophy.
The Land Grant Trophy.
You know,
yeah. So obviously,
the reasoning behind the name for that trophy.
So I know Michigan State is the first college in Michigan that was a land grant university. So I think Penn State is also a land grant. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're land grant colleges and they're both of their respective states.
Pretty cool.
Big agricultural schools, both of them are. And they basically started off as agricultural, farming schools. And both of these schools really think of these types of programs very highly. They have a lot of big programs. They have different facilities for farming and agriculture because that's what they were built off of. MAC was the original name of Michigan State, Michigan Agricultural College. So they build off of that, and that's kind of the land grant that they were given by the federal government to become a university, a federally regulated university. And that was basically the first of its kind, was these land grant colleges. So that's where that comes from. And I think it's cool that they do that, especially within the Big Ten, to have a award for this contest be fought for. And whenever there's a team, obviously you don't want to wash it out with too many, like every single game have an award for it. But when you see it happen, like the Paul Bunyan or the Land Grant Trophy, it's exciting to see. And you're playing for something more than just the merit of the season. Because, Penn State's pretty much out of the race. They had a promising season early on. Michigan State is just fighting for a good bowl game at this point. So having to fight for that trophy is good.
From a lot of Spartan fans over the last couple of days, they're just really low on their team, and it hurts because there's a lot to play for left still. A New York 6 bowl, if you guys take care of business against Penn State, could find yourselves in the Fiesta Bowl or something of the like. And that's great, especially because just like my Wolverines, the expectations coming into the season weren't all that high, and to be sitting there with 9 wins and a chance to get 10 in the regular season, that's huge. And I think that your fan base needs to realize that, and it's your last chance, one of your last chances to watch the man who's an award finalist for 7 different awards nationally, including the Heisman, the Maxwell Award, and the Doak Walker Award, and Kenneth Walker III.
Yeah, KW3 or KW9, K9, whatever you want to
K9.
call him. He's had a great season. And I think the fans, and I can speak for the fans pretty much collectively in the dissatisfaction with the Michigan State Spartans, and most of it stemmed from the last game against Ohio State, is we did not see us crumble like we did. Even Purdue, we did lose to Purdue. We saw a little bit of that, that faintness as far as the strength behind the offense, a lot of the holes in the defense. But that was a decent fight. We had chances throughout that game to win. The Ohio State one, it was just like we crumbled. We played like a D3 school that's never played in a serious game before. It was really kind of pitiful to watch that. And that was not the team that we saw, and that was not the coaching staff that we saw operate in games prior.
You
Teams
guys
that
are
beat
playing
Michigan.
really injured. I know that for sure. And
Yeah,
you
we're
were
banged
last
up
week, but after that game, I think I seen somewhere that maybe the number 20 of possible people out for the game, which is astronomical. And then like big names like Speedy Naylor and then Xavier Henderson, who are just crucial pieces to your offense or your defense. That really hurts.
Yeah, it does. And it's just kind of a damper on the rest of the season, the outlook, especially with all that was in play for so long into the season. Obviously the bowling ball started rolling down the hill with the loss of Purdue. And then, we had the win, and then we lost to Ohio State. And it's just there's no chance anymore. And having that hope, getting our hopes up and then having our hearts be broken, I think that's where a lot of the sour feelings come from.
I can definitely empathize with that because I'd be the same way. If Michigan dropped another game after Michigan State, I probably wouldn't even be tuning in tomorrow just as a fan because I'd be pretty sour about that.
Right. You got to be objective, though. You got to look at the big picture, make sure
what you guys have done this season,
what we've already accomplished, right, which is a lot. And you got to be focused on the positive for sure. You got to.
I hope they pack the woodshed tomorrow because that team, even with these losses, they deserve a crowd to show up for them on this holiday weekend and make some noise because Penn State's still a rival, and James Franklin and them are going to be around for 10 years, just like Mel Tucker.
Yep. They're going to be around for a while. They're still young guys that got a lot to learn and a lot to accomplish at both of their respected schools. And they'll be seeing each other a lot, especially in Big Ten contests. So we're excited to see it, and we're happy with what they both accomplished. And we've seen, I'm sure a lot of Penn State fans have a lot of similar feelings that Michigan State fans do, maybe even worse with all the promise that they had going into this season. So it is what it is. You got to be focused on the positives and focus on the growth and focus on everything that's at stake, and that is to fight for. That's just going to make you want it more and more every single year going forward. So it is what it is, and we're excited to see it. Really exciting game, and lots of exciting games. Not only the ones that we mentioned, the Bedlam. I wouldn't put Michigan State, Penn State really in that conversation. Yes, there's a lot to be fought for, the Land Grant Trophy and things like that. The Kenneth Walker thing. There's different things in the Heisman race as well that we're being focused on. But the big games tomorrow are OU and Oklahoma State and Michigan, Ohio State. Those are the games you got to focus on. And we'll be releasing a lot more content going into tomorrow on both of those games. So we're looking forward to that. But we'll start wrapping it up here, guys. We're at the 40-minute mark. Cody, do you got any final statements you want to release to the people before the games this weekend?
Nope. Everyone just be safe driving home and all your travels back to wherever your hometown, home state is, and enjoy football. And then get ready for bowl season.
Exactly. Get ready for bowl season. It's right around the corner. And it's going to be here before you know it. The season ended really quickly. It went by in a blink of an eye. NFL is going to be next, and we're just going to be into NBA and college basketball, going to dive head first into both of these. And we're really excited to watch college basketball go and see the light of day, especially going into March Madness, arguably the best time of the year for anything. So we're really excited about that. And just stay focused and stay tuned with everything we got going here at the Gin Sports Network and with the Gin College Podcast. We're really excited with what we've accomplished so far, and everybody continue showing your love for us. Give us your support, share the post, share the podcast, just get the word out there so people can get it that haven't already got it or received it. But we'll leave it at that, guys. Have a great weekend. Have a safe holiday weekend with your family, friends, and we'll be in touch very soon. But for now, I'm John J. II with the Gin College Podcast with my co-host, Cody Almasi. Have a great night.